Hi there, I'm Katy Rose and welcome to the Rooted Reinvention, a podcast exploring the real-world journey of reinventing who we are without burning out or burning our whole life down. I teach people how to make lasting change by melding my Masters of Neuroscience and my Cognitive Therapy qualification with common self-help tools, spiritual concepts, and my personal experience. Because being yourself doesn't need to feel so damn hard. To get more information on podcast episodes, please visit rootedreinvention.com/podcast. Good morning. So I've had a lot of different thoughts about what I could talk about this week, to the point where I have literally just gone, pick one. And I've picked the one that I haven't prepared particularly well. Like, I've literally got a title. But I'm going to go with it because I've actually procrastinated doing this. So normally I would have recorded this yesterday, and I'm just sort of looking at my weekend and thinking, I need to get this done. So the topic that I've picked for today, out of the many different various options, is the self in integrity. And I recognise that probably sounds, A, what does that mean? B, quite pompous. So when I'm thinking about the self and integrity, I am literally thinking, what would Katy in integrity do? So I am not one of these coaches who talks a great deal about your values and how your values shape your life on the outside. I do think of values as a tool, and kind of knowing ourselves is a skill, and knowing what we value and what's important to us. And the word integrity to me is about, are you living in a way that you're happy with, basically? And so thinking about the self and integrity, it is really that question of, when you reach a decision about what to do with your time, your energy, your day, what would you in integrity do? If you were following all of the values that you want to personify, the values, the things that are important to you, and you were following that as a guide, that as your map and your compass, what would you do next? So one example of this is Katy in integrity knows that if she eats a bunch of junk food, she's gonna have a sugar crash, she's gonna feel rubbish, she's gonna probably have a nap to sleep the crash off. Whereas she also knows that she can have something that's healthier for her, that might still have a bit of sugar in it, but won't completely shift her balance. And at times when I'm kind of caught in that overwhelm, that feeling of having too much stimuli, of feeling that there's too much going on, the feeling of too much in general, whether it's my emotions inside, whether it's the news outside, whether it's my thoughts racing through my head, whatever it is that feels too much, the first thing that goes out the door is essentially it's the prefrontal cortex in our brain is what helps us kind of understand consequences, plan ahead, consider our morals in different things, and that just shuts down when we're overwhelmed anyway. And that kind of has to fight with that emotional fight or flight, instinctive animal brain sort of further in. And sometimes it wins out and sometimes it doesn't. You wonder why on occasion you feel like that. You're like, why am I so struggling with this emotion that I've kind of not been thinking about like an adult? That's your prefrontal cortex going offline, or losing the battle against that innate, instinctive emotional response. So thinking about self and integrity is literally, what do I know works for me and what is important to me? And just having that slight reframe when we're feeling like we can't make a decision, when we're feeling like we're going to do something that perhaps we're going to regret later. And again, my examples tend to be that I'm going to eat some junk food, I'm going to skip my exercise for the day. They're pretty mundane examples, I recognise, but the concept is still the same. So it might be that for some people this is turning to alcohol, it might be numbing with video games, it might be doing drugs, it might be all kinds of things. But the concept is this me living in integrity? Does this behavior that I'm about to do match with how I think of myself and how I want to be as a person? And sometimes this question isn't enough. Sometimes I don't even think of this question. Sometimes I'm halfway through a pack of chocolate biscuits without even thinking about it. To be fair, usually I recognise when I hit the bottom of the packet and there's one chocolate biscuit left, and I leave it because I'm like, oh, I can't eat the whole packet. So sometimes this isn't something that you can always do. Sometimes our brains and our bodies and our emotions do get the better of us, and that's okay. That's part of being human. But if you are in that point of, oh, I should do this, but I don't know, but I would feel better, but I don't know. Just asking, what would me and integrity do right now with this choice? If I were living 100% in accordance with what is important to me, so for me that's honour, so keeping my word, doing what I said I'd do. That is truth and honesty, so again to myself in particular, so kind of not lying to myself, not numbing, not hiding from the truth of things, of what's important to me. And that curiosity and sort of being open to learning and experiencing different things. Those are probably my top 3 kind of values that I use with this particular phrasing. And would curious, honest, honourable me eat this thing of chocolate when I know it's going to make me feel like rubbish? I'm going to feel bad afterwards. And I know I've got some chocolate chips downstairs that I could just put into something much healthier. I could just put a little sprinkling of something on top that would still help meet that need of, I want some chocolate, I want something sweet now, but wouldn't completely crash the next 3 hours of my day. And thinking about that sort of alternative, the second kind of part of this, so apart from asking what would me and integrity do next, or how would me and integrity handle this situation, is having a list of things which are in integrity with yourself. My life coach Tiffany Hahn basically talks about integrity and says, make a list of tiny acts of resistance. So that is, well, I really want this chocolate, but I know I shouldn't. What's the alternative available? So for me, I keep chocolate chips in my baking cupboard and I can put them in my porridge. I have a recipe for flapjacks, which I use some sugar but also some coconut, just to kind of mean that the sugar content is generally a bit lower, but they still taste sweet. And again, I can always put chocolate chips in them. There are things that I can do that will allow me to still have something that meets that immediate need for me. In this case, is generally something sweet, something chocolatey, some kind of eating pattern. That's my kind of instinctive go-to with emotional difficulties and overwhelm. And still have like something that is that tiny act of resistance of, no, I'm not going to eat another pack of chocolate buttons. I'm going to go make some porridge and put chocolate chips on top. So making that list of tiny acts of resistance and things that will help keep you in integrity before you are in that emotional or overwhelmed state definitely makes this easier. And in my case, it makes it possible, because if I had to be the grown-up in that moment and go and like think up different things of how I could do this in integrity, I would lose the battle. My instinctive, emotional, overwhelmed state would take over. Whereas being able to go, I've already got 2 alternatives for this, means that I don't have to think too hard. I don't have to come up with a magical problem-solving solution while I'm in this state of overwhelm, of indecision, of discomfort. So I'd love to know if you consider this kind of question, and different people will use different phrasing, but that kind of, is what I'm about to do, is this what I'm feeling right now, is how I'm acting right now in integrity with what is important to me. Am I living the life I want? Am I being my best self? It doesn't really matter to me what the phrasing is, but that kind of check-in, that we are trying to reinvent who we are, kind of against all the shoulds and musts of culture and our own previous experiences that haven't helped us, and being able to check in with, will future me in 3 hours be glad that I ate this entire pack of chocolate biscuits? No. Can current me do something different to enable future me to feel okay about what's going on? And again, notice I'm not denying myself chocolate. I'm not saying, oh, you can't have that thing because it's not good for you. You have to deal with your emotions in a different way. If that is what my brain is going to take me to, if that is the option my brain is going to give me, then I work with it to some extent. And some people will just go, I'm not going to have chocolate, I'm going to go and have an apple. And there are some days when I can do that, to be fair. Or even just say, chocolate's not going to help right now, I'm going to sip some water. Like, there are definitely times when I feel more able to take that almost bigger step back and being able to do it. But we are human, and I think it's really important to address, certainly in these kind of podcast episodes. Like, I'm not sitting here going, oh, you must deny yourself of everything you want in that moment. And some days we have different levels of kind of inner strength available to us in that moment. So when making that list of tiny acts of resistance, it can be, I'm going to wait 5 minutes, and if I still want the chocolate in 5 minutes' time, I'm going to go let myself have those chocolate biscuits. But I'm going to wait 5 minutes first. And kind of giving your body that space to pause and to consider and to kind of let the emotion or the overwhelm process a little bit before you get to making that decision. So for some people it might be, I really want to eat chocolate, so I'm going to go do 10 press-ups because I know that will get the anxiety a little bit out of my system, it's healthy for me, and then I will consider if I still want them afterwards. It might be that you recognise you're hungry, and yes, you want chocolate because you're now feeling emotional or struggling or overwhelmed, but actually, why don't you go have a piece of, I could go have a piece of toast, and if in an hour I still want that chocolate, it's still going to be there for me. So really, it's just about considering, does what you're about to do in terms of managing this emotion fit in with who you want to be? As I say, sometimes we all give in, and that's part of being human, and that's information for us. That's us being scientists going, okay, on this occasion that wasn't enough. What was different about this? What can I do differently? What might help next time? And I will link to, I think it was episode 4, where I talk about kind of setting up that experiment and being the scientist. So I will link that in the show notes as well. But my question really for you for this week is to think about, what would me in integrity do in this moment? And just to have that question in your mind for the next week. And if you find that helpful, then maybe making that list of tiny acts of resistance to support you living in integrity with what's important to you. As always, I hope that you are all well. I want to say thank you so much for your time and listening. And if Cassidy is listening, I want to just give her a shout out. I hope you all have a good week, and I will see you again next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening, and as always, you can find out more at RootedReinvention.com. Take care, remember you are more capable than you often realise, and I'll see you next time. Bye.